Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Fazur Azham bin Muhammad Fauzi. In this video presentation, I'm going to present about our group's data structure and algorithms project titled Bowling Scoring System. So this is the group members in our group. So the first one is Muhammad Fatihin bin Muhammad Kali, RC21236. Muhammad Muaz bin Muhammad Yunus, RC21527, Muhammad Tajul Afiq bin Tajul Aris, RC21525, and finally myself, Muhammad Fazrul Azham bin Fauzi, RC21205. So moving on to the case study. So the first case study explains the basic background of the bowling. So bowling is a popular sport all over the world, and the basic gameplay is to roll a ball down a bowling lane to knock down the pins at the end of the lane is how it's played. So this diagram shows like the basic thing that you need to know to play bowling. So a bowling game consists of 10 frames. To knock down all 10 pins, the bowler may use up to 2 balls in each frame. A strike occurs when the first ball knocks down all the pins and ends the frame. A spare is when you knock down all the pins with the first 2 balls. A miss is defined as knocking down fewer than 10 pins with the first 2 balls. A bowler receives 1 point for each pin knocked down, as well as the bonuses for strikes and spares. A strike is worth 10 points plus the sum of the next 2 balls. A spare is worth 10 points plus the next ball score, and a strike in the 10th frame earns the bowler 2 extra balls, while a spare earns a bowler 1 extra ball. So Table 1 shows an example of how the game is scored. Bowling use score sheet that is organized to show the score for each frame in the ball. They use an X to represent strike and a slash to represent a spare by convention. So this is how it looks like. There's like 10 frames with 2 balls and the strikes and the slash. The strike and the spare. So bowlers keep their own scores back in the days, and the presence of computer have made it easier. So this is the how the calculation was calculated. So the frames, the balls, the score for the frame, and the cumulative score for each frame. So here's the problem: to design and implement a class that represent an automatic bowling score object. It will provide several methods. The first one is a constructor, an integer frame number method containing the ball about to be rolled, an integer score so far method that returns the score in the game so far, a boolean game is over method that returns true when the 10th frame has been scored and false otherwise, and an integer array roll method that given the number of pins knocked down by a roll of the ball returns an array whose length is the number of frames completely scored and whose contents are cumulative scores for those frames. So table 2 displays the arrays returned by roll in the previously described game. You can assume that the argument to roll correctly represents the number of pins knocked down by the roll. That is, no error checking is required. So this is the table 2, the argument to roll and the return values. So the preparation is the reader should have experience in defining objects using methods, loops, and array in testing programs with JUnit.
My name is Muhammad Tajul Afiq bin Tajul Aris. My trade ID is RC21525. So our system is bowling scoring system. So the algorithm of this system is in this section we'll look at how a flowchart and program are created to solve an issue pertaining to the game of bowling. More significant than any specific development is how the principle of structured programming are applied. The sum of each frame score determines the game's overall score. The maximum score that may be earned is 300 when 12 strikes are obtained consecutively. So, how flowchart work? Every time a programmer broadens a task, the problem is created is fixed in the extended form of work. The rule score that must be handled for the new game will serve as the input for this new problem. The work can be completed using simple looping structure. Each execution updates the game score and a frame counter and calculate the score for the current frame. So this is a refinement task from initialize frame to 1 and game score to 0. Frame less than 10. If true, calculate the score for the current frame and add it to the game score, increment frame by 1. If false, print game score and update number of games, current minimum, accumulated total and maximum. and read new game. So this is refinement of the initial flowchart. Firstly, initialize current game, current number of games, accumulate total and current minimum and maximum score to 0. Read new game. If true, initialize frame to 1 and game score to 0. Other initialize frame less than 11. If true, calculate the score for the current frame and add it to the game score increment frame by 1. And here, and if false, print the game score, update the number of the game minimum, accumulate total and maximum, read new game. New game, if false, over here, set average to the accumulate total divided by the number of games, pre-minimum, average, and maximum score, and the number of games. So, previous work, an example of structured programming can be used to solve very straightforward problem. Previous tasks can be functionally modularized as opposed to making the flowchart of figure 2 more complex. The function for previous tasks along with figure 2 will then make up the answer to the original problem. The significance of selecting variable names that convey information about the meaning and purpose of variable should be emphasized once more. So this is refinement of new task from the strike through read next roll score into R2, set frame score to 10 plus R1 plus R2, set roll score to R1, set R1 to R2. Strike if false, preparation, and preparation is true, read next roll score into R2, set frames score to 10 plus R2, set roll score to R2. If frame less than 10, then read next roll score into R1. If preparation is false, set frame score to roll score plus R1. If frame less than 10, then read next to roll score into roll score R1. And lastly, set game score to game score plus frame score, set frame to frame plus 1. So this is refinement of new task 2. Print game score, set number of game to number of game plus 1. Add accumulate score to accumulate total to the game score minimum. If true, set minimum to the game score. If false, just teruskan ke game score minimum maximum. If true, set maximum score to game score. If false, game score less than minimum maximum. So requirements try and spare figure 3 row score equal to 10 and row score plus R1 equal to 10 respectively. The variable row score and R1 must, when a new task is entered, contain the first row score of the current frame and following row score respectively.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Muaz bin Muhammad Yunus and my ID matric is RC21527. Here I am about to present the third case study, which is about the documentation, implementation, incremental development, and the bowling score examples. Let's go to the documentation first. In this project, we include specific header that describe what our program does. We use meaningful identifier name that suggest the purpose of the constant, function, variable, and etc. Implementation. Our implementation include 4 user-defined function. An array of struct have been used in this program to store all of the bowler and their data. The third one is incremental development. We find that it's easier and faster to produce a working program by practicing incremental development. In other words, we doesn't try to solve the entire problem at once. We develop our design first. When the time comes to implement our design, we do it step by step. Here's an implementation strategy for this project. First, we write the code necessary to read the entire input file. Second, we add the code to produce output lines like table heading, frame bowling symbol output, and etc. We put the output line that does not require any calculation. Third, we add the code that compute the frame scores. Fourth, we write the code to compute the total combined bowler's frame score. And the last one, we implement code to determine the score per bowl and total score. After sufficiently complete the program, at this point we clean up our code. We eliminating any unnecessary instruction and fine tuning the documentation we already wrote. Then we check our implementation and output again to be sure that we follow all the specification given for this project, especially those in the rubric section below. As we can see here, this is the bowling scoring table for one person and the specific explanation for each frame. And let's go to the 10 frames. In the sample score, 3 shots were thrown to the 10 frame. This is because of the bonus awarded for strikes and spares. If you throw a strike on your first half, in the 10 frame, you need 2 more shots to determine the total value of the strike. If you throw a spare on your first 2 balls in the 10 frame, you need 1 more shot to determine the total value of the spare. This is called a field ball. If you throw an open frame in the 10 frame, you want to get a third shot. The only reason the third shot exists is to determine the field value of a strike or spare. As we know, structure is a user-defined data type. So why we use structure in bowling scoring system? It is because structure allows user to combine different of data type together. A structure creates a data type that can be used to group items of partially different type into a single type. In line 21, we can see that int lane will be as element for a structure name frame. The structure have two members, which is a score and frame. Structure number also have two elements, which is number and game. And the last structure is player structure. This structure has three elements. The name member is 50 element array, a number, and a player as a simple member with a struct type respectively. A nested structure in C is a structure within a structure. One structure can be declared inside another structure in the same way structure members are declared inside a structure. The structure can be nested in the following different way: by separate nested structure or by embedded nested structure. Here we're gonna see the separate nested structure. The first nested structure is when we need to store the frame of the game. We need to store it into a separate structure and nest the structure frame into the structure game. The second one is when game use a member in a number structure, and the last nested structure is when we need to store the number of entity player in a structure. Hence, to store the number of the player, we need to store the number of the player into a separate structure and nest the structure number into the structure player. Functions are the block of code that perform a specific task. When called, we need to pass the parameters to the function, and the function return the result. Structure can also be passed when the parameter to the functions when the function is called. If we pass the values of the variable of the function, it's known as the call by value. Instead of the passing the value, if we pass the address of the variable to the function, it's known as the call by reference. The dot operator is used to access a structure member. The arrow access the member of structure when the pointer reference the structure. With this basic of structure and function, it will be easy to understand structure function clearly. In this program, the whole structure is passed to another function by address. It means only the address of the structure is passed to another structure. The whole structure is not passed to another function with all members and their values, so the structure can be accessed from call function by its address. We can see it in the line 420. Implement return a structure to a calling function. Struct defined data structure tend to contain multiple data members, resulting in a big memory footprint. Now, When it comes to parsing relatively big structures between functions, it's best to use pointers. The pointer serves as a handle to the object and its size is fixed regardless of the structure stored there. Using pointers to return struct potentially reduce memory traffic and give code more performance. We return the pointers to democratically using malloc at line 412. And the last one is able to create, assign and access structure variable and elements. To assign and retrieve value from the elements of structure variable, we use the same syntax as to set and get properties on an object. We place the member access operator between the structure variable name and the element name. The following example access element of the variable previously declared as new PTR. If a structure element is a reference type, such as string, object, or array, the pointer to the data is copied. In the previous example, if struct player have include a object variable, then the preceding example would have copied the pointer from a struct player to new PTR, and a change to the object data through one structure would be in effect when access to the other structure in line 412.
Hello, today I will present the linked list section. We have three operations in this section. First, I will explain about modifying or updating the data in the list. The update operation used in the update player function. First, we must declare some function. Then I use if else to check the information. If there is no information, the system will print the list is empty. As there is have information, the system will display update player. Next, we must insert old and new data. If we insert old data true, the system will display old and new data information. If we insert wrong old data, the system will display all data does not exist in the list. Next, we go to the second operation, which is insert data into the list. For insert operation, I use in add player function. First, we must create a new node using malloc function to save the data in structure player. The data for structure player is player number, name, lane, game, and score. For the system, I use stack operation, which is the new data will put at the end of the list of data. Next, we go to the last operation, which is delete data in the list. The delete operation used in delete player function. First, we must declare number function. Then I use if else to check the information. If there is no information, the system will print the list is empty. As there is have information, the system will display delete player. Next, we must enter player number to delete. If we insert true number, the system will display this player has been deleted. If we insert the wrong number, the system will display number to be deleted is not in the list. For the system, I use delete in the middle, which is we can choose who player we want to delete. That's all from linked list section. Thank you.
Alright, so on to the next, we have the search player functions, which obviously will search the player information in the list. And we use the linear sequential search for this function. So starting off, we have the declaration of the search value. So here we need to check if the head pointer is null, and if it is, then it will print the list is empty, and else it will search the player, and it will execute this statement, which is to enter the player number to search, and it will store in the search value. And here's like the process of the searching, the linear sequential search. And once the system are able to find the matching number, it will display this, the player found, it will display the player number, the name, as well as the score. And if it doesn't, it will execute this statement of sorry, no match found. So this function enables the user to search for the player and retrieve the information.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Tajawfi bin Tajaris. My Matrix ID is RC121525. So my part is sorting. For sorting part is from void score game over here. They have if else statement. Uh, so over here from the if we have please add player detail first. So if we don't have a detail of the user, we can sort of uh, the details. So as over here, we have a table of list of player, and the while is a loop for execute if it will execute if it true repeatedly. So we have a for loop over here for the selection sorting. So for loop is execute statement repeatedly from the user. So the sorting method is selection. Over here we can see list of player, which is we have Tajul, Muaz, Tayin, and Fas, and score over here. So the sorting one is score. Over here we can see the score position decreasing from highest to lowest. So over here we see Tajul is the highest and Muaz is the lowest, which is 300 and 189. So over here, 300 is the highest, and 250, 200, and 189. This is the sorting of the score position.
So moving on with the simple input and the output of the program. So the first simple input we have is the main menu, where the user need to enter number 1 to start the game or number 2 to exit. So if the user enter number 1, it will go to the starting game, so which the user needs to enter the lane number, the number of games, and enter the number of players from 1 to 6. So in this case I put 1 and put my name here. And then after that it will start the game from set 1 until set 10, in which the user will have to key in how many pins were hit on this ball for each frames. So like this is the first throw, and then this is the second throw, and so on with the different sets. And then finally here we have the player menu. We have the enter number, which the user need to enter number to access to each of these menus. So 1 to add player, 2 to delete player, 3 to search player, 4 to update player, and 5 to proceed to the list of players. So this is how the add player interface looks like, which the user need to enter the player number, the name, the lane, the game, and the score. So this is for the delete player. So the user need to enter the player number to delete, and it will delete the player here. So moving on to the search player, the user need to enter the player number to search, and it will search and retrieve the information right here. And this is for the update player. So if you want to update the score of the game, you can just insert the old score to be updated and the new score to be updated. So it will replace the old one with the new score, like so. And then moving on with the sample output. So after the game just now, it will produce this kind of output, which will show the number of frames and the number of throws as well as the score. And it will tell the user to remember the final score to manage the player details. And this is the list of players which the user can see the player, the games, the names, and the score, as well as the score position from highest to the lowest.
Okay, I will show a demo run for this system. First, we have splash screen. Next, we must choose to start game or exit. I will choose start game. Then we must enter lane, game, number of player, and player name. Next, we must enter how many pins were hit for all players. Then we must take note the final score for all players to manage player data. Next we can add, delete, search and update player. First we go to add player. We must insert all data from the scoreboard. Then we go to delete player. We must insert player number to be deleted. This player has been deleted. Then I put again. Next we go to search player. We must enter player number to search. And the last one is update player. We must insert all score to be updated. And insert new score to be updated. The information will be changed. And then I change again. If we consume confirm all data true, we can proceed. Then the system will list all data and arrange the score according to the highest score. That's all. Thank you.